This is Eagle News for Wednesday, March 10th, 2021. I'm Chris Wright in Washington. A sixth woman stepped forward to accuse embattled New York Governor Andrew Cuomo of sexual harassment, according to a published report. Florida sued the Biden administration over its refusal to detain illegal aliens with criminal convictions who would have been deported under previous administrations. More than 100,000 people crossed the southern border illegally in February. The Supreme Court dismissed a challenge to the Trump administration public charge rule after the Biden administration announced the rule would no longer be enforced. The rule made it harder for immigrants to get visas and green cards if they were likely to need public welfare benefits. Most abortions are now illegal in Arkansas, but a court fight is expected. A 13-year-old Muslim girl in France admitted she made up the story that led to the beheading of a school teacher near Paris in October. Those are the top stories, details in the links below. Now for the Daily Skirmish. Lots of legislative proposals to promote election integrity have popped up in lots of states, 200 bills in 43 states by one count, but it appears Iowa is first out of the gate with a new law signed on Monday. The new law shortens early voting from 29 to 20 days. It requires most ballots to be received by Election Day, not noon the next Monday. The new law also places restrictions on absentee voting. Election officials cannot send out absentee request forms unsolicited, and absentee ballots must now be returned by the voter, a family member, or a caregiver, not ballot harvesters hired by the Democrat Party or its minions. The new law also removes voters from the voter rolls if they miss an election or don't report a change in address. The Democrats' canned response to common sense election safeguards is voter suppression. Provisions like these make it harder for people to vote. To which my answer is, well, duh. Of course we want to make it harder for people who are not qualified to vote in our elections. There are good reasons for each and every one of the safeguards commonly used to secure elections. Requiring an ID makes it harder for people to buy beer, but we don't want 12-year-olds buying beer. Requiring a real ID makes it harder for people to get on an airplane, but we don't want to raise the risk of terrorism by allowing people who are not who they say they are to fly. Requiring voter ID makes it harder to vote, but we don't want dead people or non-citizens voting. There's only one reason the Democrats want to strip away all the safeguards. They want to steal elections and impose one-party rule forever. There's only one reason Democrats want to make mail-in voting permanent everywhere. They want to cheat and are trying to exploit the pandemic to get their way. The Democrats want their ballot harvesters to be able to return absentee ballots, not because it will help minority voters, but because it will help the Democrats steal elections. Loosey-goosey mail-in voting is no longer acceptable. Allowing Democrat ballot harvesters to traffic in absentee ballots is no longer acceptable. Leaving dead voters on the rolls is no longer acceptable. Each and every one of these things is a vector for election fraud. If working to restore common sense safeguards to elections is voter suppression, I'll eat my hat. Election integrity is a good message for everybody. Iowa just plugged some of the holes in its voting system, but there are lots more there and everywhere. But if we're going to restore confidence in our elections, this is the direction we need to be headed. Thank you, Iowa, for showing the way. See you next time. I'm Chris Wright in Washington.